You know the one. You're rummaging through an old dusty box in the attic. You pull out a forgotten trinket that's been gathering dust for decades, and you suddenly discover it's worth a life-changing amount of money. It's the ultimate treasure hunter's fantasy. For most of us, that dream stays firmly in our heads, but for one lucky guest on the latest installment of the BBC's Antiques Roadshow, that fantasy became a jaw-dropping reality. But here is the twist that has the internet buzzing. Despite being offered a valuation that could buy a luxury car or a hefty deposit on a house, this guest did something that shocked everyone. He said no. In a world obsessed with quick cash and flipping assets, this story is a heartwarming reminder that some things are simply worth more than money. A real classic, hidden in plain sight. During Sunday's episode, November 30, the beloved BBC program took viewers on a journey through some of the unseen treasures from this summer's valuation events. Among the porcelain figures and oil paintings, a gentleman approached the table of horological expert Alastair Chandler with a wristwatch that looked, to the untrained eye, fairly standard. It was an Omega Speedmaster. For those in the know, the name Speedmaster already rings bells. It's an icon. But this wasn't just any Speedmaster. The guest explained the backstory, a tale that instantly made the object feel personal rather than just mechanical. The watch had belonged to his father. It wasn't an everyday beater. It was a special piece, reserved for big moments. The guest recalled seeing it on his father's wrist only on special occasions throughout his childhood. It's a relatable image, isn't it? The dad dressing up for a wedding or a big dinner, buckling on the good watch. When Alastair Chandler took the piece into his hands, his reaction was immediate. "This is a fabulous Omega Speedmaster made in Switzerland," Alastair remarked, his eyes lighting up. "It's a real classic watch." However, what really caught my attention was it's such an unusual dial configuration for an Omega Speedmaster. That was the first clue that something big was coming. The Moonwatch misconception. To understand why this watch is so special, you have to understand a little bit of history. And Alastair was quick to give us the lesson. When most people hear Omega Speedmaster, they think of one thing: space. As soon as we mention the Speedmaster, we automatically think moon landing. Alastair explained to the crowd. These watches were known as the Moonwatch because they were the first watch to go to the moon, chosen by NASA. It's one of the greatest marketing claims in history. If it's good enough for Neil Armstrong, it's good enough for us, right? But here is the catch. Alastair pointed out a distinct difference on this specific heirloom. "But you'll notice on this watch there's nothing about the moon landing on it," he noted. "Why?" "Because this wasn't a watch built for the stars, it was built for the track." Alastair revealed that this specific model was primarily used as a chronograph for racing. It was a tool for speed on the ground, not in the vacuum of space. And while that might sound less glamorous to a novice, to a collector, that distinction is the difference between a nice check and a winning lottery ticket. The £59 investment of a lifetime. Then came the financial history. The guest revealed a receipt that makes modern eyes water. His father had purchased this timepiece back in 1971 for the grand total of £59. To put that in perspective, £59 in 1971 was roughly a week's wage for a decent job. It wasn't pocket change, but it certainly wasn't a fortune. It was a sensible purchase for a quality item. The guest stood there, likely expecting a nice bump in value. Maybe a few £1,000s? After all, it's an old watch. Alastair Chandler dropped the bomb. He explained that because of the racing configuration, this watch is incredibly scarce. We aren't talking about hard to find, we are talking about almost impossible to find. Given the rarity of these watches, they don't come up for sale very often. So it's quite a difficult one to place, the expert teased, building the tension. And then the number. However, I can say in December 2024, a similar watch, same model, sold for just over £50,000 at auction. £50,000, from £59 to £50,000. That is an investment return that would make a Wall Street broker weep with jealousy. Dad chose wisely. The reaction on Antiques Roadshow is usually the best part. You see the gasp, the widening eyes, and then the inevitable question. So when are you selling it? The guest was visibly stunned. Wow, surprising. Very surprising, he managed to say, processing the fact that he was holding a luxury SUV on his wrist. Alistair, keeping the mood light, joked, "It's not a bad investment on £50. The guest smiled, a moment of pure pride washing over him. "No, it's very, very good actually. Very good." Dad chose wisely. And then came the moment that separated this segment from so many others. With £50,000 potentially on the table, a sum that could pay off debts, fund a dream holiday, or boost a retirement fund, the guest didn't blink. "But I won't be selling it," he confirmed. The rarity factor. Why is it worth so much? For the tech heads and collectors out there wondering why a racing dial is worth 50 grand, it comes down to supply and demand. The expert noted that there are likely only between 5 and 20 examples of this identical dial design and appearance known to exist in public hands. Think about that. In the entire world, this man owns one of maybe a dozen left in existence. Alistair noted that, like most vintage timepieces, its worth could increase further over the years. By holding on to it, the guest isn't just keeping a memory. He's sitting on an asset that is likely to outperform gold. Why we love a refusal to sell. There was something incredibly refreshing about the guest's immediate refusal to cash in. Social media users immediately flocked to X, formerly Twitter, to praise the man's decision. One user perfectly summed up the sentiment, suggesting the guest might want to take his time selling that. In an era where we know the price of everything and the value of nothing, seeing someone prioritize sentimental attachment over a staggering 5-figure sum hits a specific emotional chord. The watch represents his father. It represents 1971. It represents those special occasions where the watch came out of the box. Selling it might bring £50,000 into the bank account, but it would remove that tangible connection to the past forever. What do you think? If you found out your father's old £59 watch was worth £50,000 today, would you cash in and enjoy the money, or would you keep it safe as a family heirloom? It's a tough choice, but for this guest, Dad's watch is priceless.